there is a quiet moment when you stop waiting for the world to understand you. No spotlight, no applause, only a room, only breath, only you. It feels like being erased, like speaking into fog. You try to explain, you edit every word, you soften your edges, you raise your volume. Still, the world keeps moving. This is not cruelty, not conspiracy. It is life. People carry loads you cannot see. They do not hear, because they are drowning in their own noise. Here is the paradox. The more you demand to be understood, the less you feel seen. The more you beg for care, the more alone you stand. Attention becomes a thirst that refuses water. So pause. Let the noise pass. Let the need pass. Listen to the floor beneath your feet. Listen to the body that has survived every season. Listen to the mind that begs for stillness. What if this silence is not a threat? What if it is a door? A door to a different kind of power, the kind that does not wait for permission, the kind that does not audition. The Stoics pointed to this door. They said, focus on what is yours to control, your judgments, your actions, your character, not the opinions of strangers, not the weather of other minds. Think of the strength that would rise if you stop arguing your worth. Think of the hours you win back when you stop rehearsing speeches that convince no one. Think of the freedom when you live by principle, not applause. You do not need a witness, you need a standard. You do not need sympathy, you need practice. So ask a simple question. What changes when you accept that no one owes you understanding? What changes when you accept that no one will carry you across the river? You change, your posture, your choices, your day. This is the moment, not loud, not heroic, quiet, like a tide turning. You stop chasing eyes. You start building a life that looks you in the eye. If that sounds severe, look closer. It is mercy. Mercy for a mind exhausted by proving itself. Mercy for a heart bruised by waiting. The journey begins here, not with applause, with acceptance, with the first clean breath after a storm, with a calm promise you make to yourself. The Stoic truth, indifference of the world. The world is not watching you, not the way you imagine, not the way you secretly hope. This is not cruelty, it is reality. Each person carries a weight you cannot see. They are absorbed in their own storms. They do not ignore you out of malice. They simply have no space to hold your burden. This realization can wound. You tell your story. You lay your heart bare. You wait for someone to nod, to say, I see you. Often, no one does. The silence feels like rejection, but silence is not always judgment. It is often preoccupation. The man beside you is worried about bills. The woman across the room is grieving in secret. A friend may smile, but inside is collapsing. The world is full of unseen battles. The Stoics faced this truth without bitterness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do not waste the rest of your life wondering what others think of you. Why? Because those others are barely thinking of you at all. They are tangled in their own webs of fear and desire. Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And much of that suffering comes from the belief that someone out there should validate us, that they should pause their life, turn their gaze, and confirm our worth. This expectation enslaves us. We wake up asking, will they notice me? Will they praise me? Will they understand my pain? Each unanswered question cuts, not because we are ignored, but because we demanded what was never promised. Think of a child demanding the tide stop moving. The sea does not hate him, it simply obeys its own rhythm. So it is with people. They move with their tides. Your demand does not alter their current. Epictetus said it plainly. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. It is not the world's indifference that destroys us. It is our refusal to accept that indifference. Here lies the hidden strength, that the moment you stop expecting others to care, you stop being disappointed when they don't. You stop rehearsing speeches no one will hear. You stop performing for an audience too distracted to watch. Instead, you turn inward. You begin to ask different questions, not "Who will see me?" but "Am I living true?" Not "Who will carry me?" but "Am I carrying myself well?" This shift is subtle. It feels like losing something. In truth, it is gaining freedom. The freedom to act without applause, the freedom to endure without witnesses, the freedom to live as if your life itself were proof enough. In a culture obsessed with being noticed, this truth cuts against the grain. You are told to share every thought, to display every wound, to measure your worth in views and likes. Yet, the Stoic path points elsewhere. It asks you to measure your worth by integrity when no one is watching, by discipline when no one applauds, by courage when no one cheers. The world's indifference is not your enemy. It is your chance to grow roots, roots that hold fast whether storms rage or skies clear, roots that do not need validation because they draw strength from deeper soil. So let the world be busy. Let it turn its eyes away. You lose nothing. You may even gain everything. For the less you expect from others, the more you can expect from yourself. The less you beg for care, the more you discover your own capacity to endure. This is the quiet revolution, not in changing others, but in changing your response to their silence. And once you accept this silence, you will be ready for the next step. The step from performance to authenticity. From being seen to being real. From performance to authenticity, we are taught to perform. From childhood, we learn to smile for approval, to achieve for praise, to bend our voice, our posture, our dreams, so someone else might nod. Performance becomes a habit, a second skin. You laugh louder in groups, you hide tears until the room is empty. You work late, not from purpose, but because applause feels like oxygen. This is the trap. When being seen matters more than being. When the mirror of others defines your shape, it feels safe at first. The approval comforts. The spotlight warms, yet it never lasts. Applause fades, attention shifts, and you are left chasing the next stage, the next compliment, the next audience. This cycle consumes years. You forget the question, "Who am I?" without their eyes. The Stoics warned against this hunger. Seneca wrote, "He is most powerful who has himself in his own power, not the man who bends with every opinion, not the woman who lives on borrowed praise." Performance is fragile. Authenticity endures. To live authentically is to act in alignment with what you know is right, whether the crowd cheers, whether the room stays silent. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is authenticity, not words, not display, action. Think of a tree. It does not bloom to earn applause. It blooms because that is its nature. Its dignity lies in growth, not in being admired. So too with us. When you drop the need to perform, you uncover a quieter strength. The strength of consistency, the strength of integrity, the strength that is not rented from the opinions of others. Ask yourself, how many choices today were for display? The clothes you wore, the words you spoke, the post you shared. Were they true to you, or rehearsed for the audience you fear losing? Authenticity demands courage. To be unseen, yet still honest. To be unpraised, yet still disciplined. To be misunderstood, yet still faithful to your values. This courage is rare, but it is the soil where freedom grows. Epictetus told his students, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because authenticity often looks strange to those still performing. Integrity often looks stubborn, discipline looks dull, yet these are the roots of a life that does not collapse. The performer changes masks each season. The authentic person keeps the same face, calm, steady, sincere. When you live this way, your worth is no longer a public vote. It is measured in your own conscience, in the peace you feel before sleep, in the strength you feel upon rising. You are no longer an actor waiting for applause. You are the author of your life, quiet, firm, untouched by the fickle winds of attention. The paradox is clear. By refusing to perform, you become more real. And in that reality, you command a deeper respect, not the shallow kind offered by applause, but the lasting kind born of character. So step off the stage, let the spotlight move. Stand in the dark and know that your dignity shines there. Authenticity is not loud, it does not advertise, it does not beg, it's simply island. And once you find this place, life begins to feel lighter. Not easier, but lighter. Because you no longer carry the weight of masks, you no longer drag the chains of performance. This is the essence of Stoic freedom: to act rightly, to live honestly, to be whole without witnesses. The journey forward is not about being seen, it is about seeing yourself, not about applause, about alignment, and this alignment is where dignity lives, not in performance, but in truth. Pain, silence, and the teacher within. Pain arrives without invitation, loneliness follows in its shadow, silence fills the space they leave behind. Most people run, we numb the pain, we drown the silence with noise. We treat loneliness as a disease to cure. Yet the Stoics saw these not as enemies. They saw teachers. Pain teaches what comfort hides. Loneliness reveals what company conceals. Silence uncovers what noise distracts from. Epictetus reminded his students, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. The cut is real, the loss is real. But the wound becomes suffering when the mind declares it unbearable, when the mind insists, this should not have happened to me. Here lies the hidden lesson. Pain is not punishment, it is instruction. It asks, will you collapse, or will you discover the strength already within you? Think of your body. A muscle grows only through strain. A bone strengthens after being stressed. So it is with the soul. Pain stretches what comfort leaves weak. Loneliness, too, has its lesson. We fear being unseen. We equate solitude with emptiness. But in solitude, the mask falls away. There is no audience to perform for, only you. And this encounter is terrifying, because you finally meet the self you have hidden behind applause. Yet this is the self you must learn to know. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in solitude, not to impress, but to understand. He did not fear the echo, he used it as a mirror. Silence carries a similar power. At first it feels suffocating, no distractions, no voices to drown your own, but stay in it long enough, and silence becomes spacious. It becomes a place where your inner teacher speaks. We spend much of life avoiding that voice. We flood our days with sound, music, chatter, screens, endless scrolls. all to avoid the stillness that tells the truth. But truth waits in silence, not the kind of truth handed down by others. The truth you discover when no one else is watching. The journey, then, is simple but not easy. We begin by fearing exposure, by craving the light so others might see us. Then, step by step, we learn to accept the dark. We learn that the shadows are not empty, they are full of guidance, if only we stop running. Pain says, "You are stronger than you thought." Loneliness says, "Know yourself before seeking others." Silence says, "Listen, and you will hear what matters." These are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to growth, to resilience, to clarity. To reject them is to reject your own teacher. To accept them is to become a student of life itself. This does not mean loving pain. It does not mean seeking loneliness. The Stoics never glorified suffering. They only insisted that suffering can be used, that hardship can be shaped into strength. A fire burns whatever is thrown into it: wood, straw, broken branches, and in burning, it becomes brighter. So too with the human spirit. Throw in pain, throw in solitude, throw in silence. The fire grows. So, when these moments arrive, when the room is too quiet, when the ache is sharp, when you feel forgotten, pause. Do not run. Do not rush for noise. Sit with them as you would with a stern teacher. Uncomfortable, yes, but necessary, because the lesson is waiting. And the lesson is this: you are not as fragile as you feared. You are not as empty as you imagined. You are not as voiceless as you believed. Pain is the weight that builds endurance. Loneliness is the mirror that shows the true face. Silence is the classroom where wisdom whispers. Accept these teachers. Walk with them. Learn from them. Only then will you see the darkness you fled from was the very ground of your strength. Choosing yourself. The root of self-mastery. True power does not arrive from applause. It begins the moment you choose yourself, not waiting, not begging, not hoping someone else will crown you. Most people live in hesitation. They wait for a sign, for permission, for recognition. They wait to be chosen by a partner, by a boss, by an audience. And while waiting, their life passes. The Stoic path interrupts this waiting. It says, do not delay. Do not hand over your authority. Choose yourself now. This choice is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the decision to be loyal to your values, even when no one witnesses, even when no one approves. Self-mastery is not coldness. It is not indifference to all relationships. It is fidelity. Fidelity to the best within you. Fidelity to principle over popularity. To action over performance. When you choose yourself, you reclaim what is yours. Your judgments, your responses, your discipline, your dignity. And in this choice lies freedom, because no one can grant it, and no one can take it away. There is, however, a subtle danger. We can confuse choosing ourselves with displaying ourselves, with performing pain for attention. Here the distinction matters. There is sharing pain for healing. This is honest. It seeks connection, not applause. It says, here is my wound, not for your pity, not for your entertainment, but so that truth may be spoken and healing may begin. This is courage. It allows us to walk with others in sincerity. It strengthens bonds. It makes solitude less isolating. Then there is performing pain for attention. This is a trap. It keeps the wound alive. It makes identity out of injury. It says, look at me bleed. look at my scars, admire my suffering. But attention does not heal. It inflates the ego, and when the applause fades, the wound still festers, because it was never addressed, only displayed. The Stoics warned against this vanity. Seneca wrote, "He who seeks wisdom should not be concerned with the crowd's opinion, for the crowd is not wise." To perform pain is to remain enslaved to that crowd. To share pain with integrity is to grow, and this is where choosing yourself becomes essential, because only you can discern the difference. Only you can decide whether your act is performance or honesty. No audience can do this for you. Choosing yourself is not the rejection of others. It is the refusal to betray yourself for them. Imagine standing at a crossroads, one path, the stage, where you perform for validation, the other path, the inner ground, where you live by your own measure. The first path is bright, but fleeting. The second path is quiet, but enduring. Self-mastery chooses the second. It turns down the noise. It walks steadily, unseen, but never untrue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." To choose yourself is to reverse this error, to care more about the truth within you than the shifting judgment outside you. This choice changes everything. Disappointment loses its grip, because you are no longer waiting to be chosen. Resentment fades, because you no longer measure worth by others' recognition. Fear loosens, because the worst that can happen, being ignored, no longer terrifies you. Self-mastery does not guarantee comfort. It does not shield from pain, but it anchors you in storms. It grants a strength that no applause can supply. And the paradox appears again. When you no longer need others to understand you, you become more understandable. When you no longer crave recognition, your presence carries more weight. When you choose yourself, you teach others to choose themselves too. This is true adulthood. This is maturity. Not waiting to be defined, but defining your life through action. Not waiting to be carried, but walking upright in your own truth. So ask, have you chosen yourself today? Or are you still rehearsing for an audience that may never arrive? The moment you choose yourself, you are no longer at the mercy of their silence. You are guided by your own clarity, and in that clarity, the roots of self-mastery grow deep. The inner transition, from approval to purpose. There is a turning point, a shift from living for recognition to living for purpose. For many years, approval is the compass. We measure success by applause. We measure worth by attention. We adjust our choices to keep others comfortable. We shrink or stretch to fit the crowd. But there comes a moment when applause no longer satisfies, when you realize their praise is not nourishment, their recognition is not enough. This moment feels like loss, but it is liberation. Because when you no longer need an audience, you begin to hear the quiet voice within, not the voice rehearsed for performance, the voice that knows who you are, the voice that whispers, "This is what matters. This is what endures." The Stoics called this alignment with nature, to live according to reason, to act from principle, not popularity, to seek virtue, not vanity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what others say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." The transition is not sudden, it is gradual. Like dawn breaking across the horizon, slowly shadows retreat, slowly clarity expands. At first, you still crave recognition, you still want to be understood, but each time you choose purpose over approval, the craving weakens. Each time you honor values over validation, you grow stronger, and with strength comes peace, because you no longer bargain with your soul. You no longer twist yourself to fit into their praise. Others may not understand you. They may mislabel you. They may define you in ways that feel untrue. But here lies the freedom. You no longer depend on their definition. You know your own. Freedom is not the absence of opinion. It is the refusal to be chained by it. Freedom is not found in controlling reactions. It is found in releasing their hold. When you live with purpose, your compass is internal, not the weather of other minds, not the noise of the crowd, but the steady direction of principle. Purpose sharpens, it simplifies, it clears the fog. You stop scattering energy chasing applause. You begin to invest in what matters: discipline, integrity, service. This transition does not make life easier, but it makes life lighter, because you are no longer dragged by endless approval seeking. You walk straighter, you act clearer, you rest deeper. In a world obsessed with recognition, to live by purpose is radical. It may make you misunderstood, it may make you alone at times, yet it will also make you free. So pause and ask, am I chasing approval, or am I serving purpose? One road is endless hunger, the other is quiet fulfillment. Choose the second, not tomorrow, not when applause fades, now. Because true freedom begins when you no longer need to be seen to finally see yourself. The quiet power of acceptance. We began with an image, a room, a silence. The moment you stopped waiting for the world to understand you, no one came to repair you, no one came to carry you, and in that absence, a strange freedom appeared. This is the paradox of life. You thought healing would arrive from applause. You thought recognition would fix the wound. But the truth is quieter. You do not need applause to walk forward. You do not need recognition to live rightly. Acceptance is not surrender. It is not giving up on connection. It is releasing the chains of expectation. It is choosing to live in alignment, whether or not the crowd approves. The Stoics did not promise a world free of loneliness. They promised strength in facing it. They did not promise a life without pain. They promised wisdom to use it. They did not promise universal understanding. They promised peace in knowing yourself. Acceptance, then, is not weakness. It is clarity. It is the clear vision that says, I cannot control their care. I can control my response, and my response will be dignity. So, here is the practice. This week, observe every moment you crave to be understood. Notice it without judgment. When the urge rises to explain, pause. When the desire grows to perform, breathe. And instead of seeking eyes, act in truth. Small choices shape the mind. Each pause is a training, each silence is a teacher, each act of integrity is a victory. Do not underestimate these moments. They look ordinary, but they are the ground where freedom takes root. Remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. The same is true with approval. The one who always craves recognition is poor, no matter how much applause he collects. The one who accepts himself is rich, even if the world looks away. So let this be your awakening. You are not defined by who notices you. You are defined by how you live, by the choices you repeat, by the principles you uphold in silence. The quiet power of acceptance is this. When you no longer beg for others to care, you begin to care for what truly matters, and that is where life changes, not with noise, not with spectacle, but with a steady step forward, guided not by their eyes, but by your truth. This is the way of the Stoic, not dramatic, not desperate, but unwavering, calm in silence, strong in solitude, whole without witnesses. Your freedom begins here. Choose it, live it, be it.